Good evening. The police are alerting citizens to an emerging trend where robbers are targeting persons making large cash transactions at commercial banks in town centers. Investigators have so far picked up on incidents in Portmore, Halfway Tree, Ligony, Maypen, and Duke Street in downtown Kingston. Information gathered suggests that the robbers work in groups, employing at least two individuals, one as a spotter to identify potential victims and another who commits the actual act of robbery. The motorcycle is the preferred mode of transportation, though there have been incidents where motor cars were used. There are also reports of perpetrators fleeing the scene on foot. While arrests have been made, investigators believe the syndicate continues to operate and are warning persons to be extremely vigilant. The following are some steps that can be employed to reduce vulnerability. Opt for non-cash options. The rise of online banking has provided many opportunities for direct bank-to-bank transfers. Pay attention to your surroundings and trust your gut. When attending banks, avoid wearing expensive jewelry and carrying costly gadgets. These items increase the likelihood of you being targeted by robbers. Be careful who you trust. In some cases, robbers were alerted to persons by persons with whom they shared information. And do not resist. Resistance increases the likelihood of serious injury or death, and persons are being advised to comply and prioritize life over possessions. We go now to news from Westmoreland, where a 17-year-old boy was fatally shot in a yard at Ricketts Avenue in Savannah Lamar yesterday. The deceased has been identified as Jerry Francis, otherwise called Jay, of Ricketts Avenue address. Ricketts Avenue is a part of the Zone of Special Operations, ZOSO, in Savannah Lamar. In January of this year, Prime Minister Andrew Holness declared a Zone of Special Operations in Savannah Lamar South to cover the communities of Russia, Darling Street, and Dexter Street. Reports from the police coming into our news center are that residents heard explosions at approximately 3 a.m. and Francis's body was later found at 5:20 a.m. with multiple gunshot wounds to his head and body. He also had lacerations to his neck. Francis was taken to the Savannah Lamar Public General Hospital where he was pronounced dead. Continuing with the news tonight, the Jamaica Defense Force, JDF, in a statement released today, expressed concern about the allegations arising from a video circulating on social media that appears to show a confrontation between a soldier and a member of the public. The incident allegedly occurred on Tuesday, June 28, in the Parade Gardens community. The Chief of Defense Staff in the statement outlined that she expects the highest standards of good order and military discipline from all service members. She added that any allegation of misconduct is frowned upon and is subject to investigation, administrative action, and disciplinary proceedings where necessary. Regarding this video in particular, Admiral Weems Gorman stated that an investigation into the circumstances surrounding the incident has begun. Admiral Weems Gorman further indicated that if the investigation uncovers that any service member involved committed any offense under the Defense Act or breached any force, policy, or operational orders, the necessary sanctions will be applied forthwith. Still tonight, a high alert has been activated for 4-year-old Melania Morgan, a student of Dulwich Avenue, Kingston 8, who has been missing since Monday, June 27. She is of brown complexion, slim-build, and approximately 4 feet tall. Reports coming into our news center are that Melania was last seen at school at about 2 p.m. wearing her school uniform, a blue tunic, and a pair of black shoes, and she has not been heard from since. Anyone knowing the whereabouts of Melania Morgan is being asked to contact the Grants Pen Police at 876-775-1795, Police Emergency 119, or the nearest police station. Continuing with the news tonight, 35 young fishers across the island are to benefit from a Training in Safety at Sea initiative by the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries through the Caribbean Maritime University. 12 additional young fishers will benefit from training in safe scuba diving practices through the University of the West Indies. This announcement was made by State Minister in the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, Honorable Franklin Witter. He said this activity forms part of the ministry's drive to improve occupational health and safety in the fisheries sector. He was speaking at an International Fisherman's Day conference at the Wembley Centre of Excellence in Hayes, Clarendon on Wednesday, where special focus was placed on young fishers aged 18 to 30 years old.
The ministry is intent on improving occupational safety and health in the fisheries sector. Training in safety at sea will be done through Caribbean Maritime University. 35 young fishers will benefit island-wide. Beneficiaries will be trained in navigation, small boat handling, and will receive life jacket, GPS compass, and certification at the end of the training. 12 additional young fishers will benefit from training in safe scuba diving practices through the University of the West Indies. The beneficiaries will be trained at PADI open waters and will receive dive watch and certification at the end of the training. Furthermore, workers in the sector will be assisted in the transition from informality to formality through a training of the trainers program in small business and occupational safety and health for fishers and fish farmers. This will be done in collaboration with the Hard Trust NTA and the International Labour Organization.
In the meantime, Mr. Witter congratulated the gallant efforts of the nation's fishers who risked their lives to provide food for the nation and for their families amid the COVID-19 pandemic.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is very, very admirable to note that throughout this COVID-19 pandemic, fishers have proven their resilience by risking their lives to continue to provide food for the nation and for their families, by sustaining the supply of fish and food products along our value chain. I wish to assure you that the ministry values very much the contribution of the fisheries sector to the national economy, and it is our aim to diversify and increase the contribution of the fisheries sector to agricultural GDP. In order to achieve this, we have invested in programs that will support the social and economic aspect of the sector, as well as sustain fisheries and aquaculture resources.
However, one Rocky Point fisherman, Neville Crawford, questioned the government's intention to assist the fishers with the cost of gas and other expenses.
You see, come up here and sit and speak. Pretty argument and pretty talk don't take. It don't take. I don't bite that. Because it's long time we hearing about pretty this and pretty that, and we're going to do for fishermen and this and that. And I don't see anything turn up. This gas business went fly green. Just come as Minister of Agriculture. I am the first one who suggests that to him in our meeting right here. So we ask him to see if him can take off the tax off of the gas. That's we fishermen can survive. When you look at one roll of wire move from 16,500 to 23,000, 25,000 and 30,000, how can fishermen survive in this gas crisis? Speaking about insurance, how can we pay insurance in this gas? If me I go to see right now, I'm going to have $60,000 to buy gas, will never move. Look at ice. You have to buy 5 or 6 blocks of ice to carry a sea if you do 4, 5, 6 days out there. When you load in a boat to go to sea, you know how much money that it costs to go out there? And the gas. We're not seeing you do anything to fishermen. All me and go see you just sit down in an office and talk pretty this and pretty that.
International Fishermen's Day 2022 is observed under the theme Small in Size, Big in Value, and coincides with the United Nations recognition of 2022 as the International Year of Artisanal Fisheries and Aquaculture, IAFA. We turn our attention now to tonight's COVID-19 update, where Jamaica yesterday recorded 108 new cases of the virus, increasing the overall tally to 142,912. Of the new cases, 71 are females and 37 males. In tonight's COVID-19 parish breakdown, Kingston and St. Andrew recorded 57 cases, St. Catherine recorded 17 cases, St. Anne recorded 10 cases, Clarendon recorded 8 cases, St. Elizabeth recorded 7 cases, St. James recorded 3 cases, St. Mary and Trelawney recorded 2 cases each, while Manchester and St. Thomas recorded 1 case each. There were 2 deaths, an 83-year-old male from Westmoreland and a 75-year-old female from St. James. The country's positivity rate now stands at 24.7%. Continuing with the news tonight, Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Senator Matthew Samuda, recently led a high-level ministerial delegation to the UN Ocean Conference in Portugal. Delegates from several member states, non-governmental organizations, and members of academia were present at the conference to engage in discussions surrounding the adoption of international best practices and solutions geared towards the sustainable management of the oceans. In his presentation, Senator Samuda noted that the natural environment is experiencing unprecedented challenges that will impact current and future generations.
Our ocean and the marine environment face significant challenges, which present several threats to biodiversity, economic growth, and human well-being. In this regard, we recognize the inextricable link between our ocean and its climate. As a small island developing state, Jamaica continues to emphasize that the threats posed by climate change not only are an impact on our livelihoods, but also the long-term impact of the quality of lives of present and future generations. Indeed, SIDS are culturally, economically, and socially connected to the ocean. Minor changes in the chemistry of our ocean will have significant ripple effects on species, including those that we commercially harness. Marine and coastal ecosystems and water quality are also at threat. Jamaica will therefore remain resolute in our support for collective and integrated ocean action to achieve SDG 14.
Mr. Samuda highlighted that as humans, we have contributed significantly to acidification and the warming and rising of sea levels, and urged each individual to play a more active role in mitigating our actions.
Carbon dioxide emissions are the main cause of ocean acidification. Greenhouse gases contribute to warming and rising sea levels. It is we humans who have generated these excesses. It is we who pollute. As such, for us to make effective progress in achieving SDG 14.3, we must reinvigorate our efforts to fulfill our international climate change commitments, as well as those that address pollution. The risks are way too great to be brushed aside. Loss of biodiversity, including marine and coastal biodiversity, destruction of habitats, increased food insecurity, disruption of sustainable economic activity, and I could go on and go on. We are all at risk of these things. This is why Jamaica is indeed a member of the Jamaica High Ambition Coalition, 30, 30 by 30. Some of the proposed solutions and innovations are already before us, that are set out in the 2030 agenda, and I'm sure we will hear from our panelists this morning.
He says we must endeavor to do more for the sustenance of oceans, while citing what Jamaica has done in helping to achieve this goal.
The UN Convention on the Law of the Sea was adopted 40 years ago in Montego Bay, Jamaica. It contains provisions related to mitigation and response to these challenges. And yet, scientific data is telling us that we have not done enough. The political will to take the required action is missing, but it must be found, colleagues. For every year, month, or day that we delay, the required actions will intensify. Jamaica reaffirms that we all bear the responsibility to ensure that we meet the 1.5 degrees Celsius target to stay alive, and call on our partners, especially those who emit more, to work assiduously to that end. We in Jamaica have already changed our targets. We will have 50% of our energy being generated by renewable sources by 2030. We have to address the gaps urgently. There is, however, and we must acknowledge it, a knowledge gap. We need to know and understand more of the impacts of our oceans. But to do this, we need to strengthen the technical expertise across all nations for ocean monitoring.
In the meantime, Mr. Samuda announced Jamaica's interest in joining the International Alliance to combat ocean acidification.
In closing, I commit on behalf of Jamaica that we will be in touch with Ms. Turner. We would also in Jamaica like to join the Ocean Acidification Alliance, so we are happy to join you.
We would be honored to have you. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. But in closing, and before I hand to co-chair, I think the message that we should all leave with is, it is possible. It's not a wave of cynicism, but I think a wave of optimism, but we need to put in the action.
And those are the stories making news. I am Shelley Hill. Stay safe, pleasant viewing, and thanks for watching.